Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. If you're new here, consider subscribing. It really helps keep these stories coming. And while you're here, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Now, sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. When I applied for a part-time gig at Home Depot, I thought the worst I'd deal with would be rude customers or heavy lifting. I was wrong. My name's Josh, and 2 weeks ago, I started as a trainee at a location on the outskirts of a mid-sized town in the Midwest. I was still figuring out where everything was, the difference between a Phillips and a flathead screwdriver, how to reset the paint mixer, and what aisle the plumbing sealant was in. The other employees were decent folks. A couple of them were lifers, folks who'd been here for decades and seemed to know the store better than their own homes. My supervisor, Carla, was strict but fair, the type who could lift 3 bags of concrete without breaking a sweat. The store opened at 6 a.m., and on that particular day, I had the early shift. I remember the sky being strange that morning. Not stormy, not cloudy, just off. The kind of gray that felt like it was pressed up against the glass of the world. I got in at 5:45 a.m. to help unlock the back gate for a delivery truck. The driver didn't show. We waited 15 minutes, then 30. Eventually, Carla just said, "Probably stuck in traffic." She handed me a box cutter and told me to restock the power tool aisle while we waited. That was the last normal moment of my life. At around 6:20 a.m., the power flickered. Once, twice. Then it went out completely for maybe 10 seconds before the backup generators kicked in, bathing the store in that dim yellow emergency light. Carla cursed under her breath and pulled out her phone. No signal. None of us had it. Even the store's landline was dead. The intercom crackled once, then went silent. I looked up at the ceiling, thinking someone was trying to make an announcement. Instead, I heard a loud crash coming from the front entrance. "Josh, come with me," Carla said, already heading toward the sound. We jogged toward the front, passing rows of lawnmowers, patio furniture, and stacks of tile. When we got to the sliding glass doors, they were shattered. Not broken, like someone threw a rock. Shattered, as if something ran right through them. Pieces of glass were scattered across the floor. Blood, not red, but a dark brownish smear, streaked along the checkout counters. "What in the world?" Carla murmured. Then we heard the first scream, high-pitched, from somewhere in garden. My stomach twisted. Carla took off running and I followed. We passed Mike, one of the older employees, stumbling out of an aisle with a wild look on his face. He tried to say something, but only managed a few strained words. "They're not right." Then I saw them. 3 people. No, not people, not anymore. Were dragging themselves down the garden center's main path. Their clothes were torn, and their skin had this gray, sickly look. One of them had something in its mouth. Something red and stringy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Carla grabbed my arm and pulled me behind a shelf of fertilizer. "We need to get out of here," she said, whispering even though they were clearly not paying attention to sound. "Now." But getting out wasn't so easy. The emergency doors were locked down due to the outage. The only clear exit was back through the shattered front. And now I could hear more footsteps outside. Shuffling, dragging. We weren't alone anymore. Carla and I crouched behind the fertilizer shelf, barely breathing. The 3 figures in the garden section were now much closer. One had a twisted arm dangling from its socket, yet it moved like it didn't feel pain. Another one dragged a foot that looked shattered, but still pressed forward with jerky, determined steps. Carla peeked around the edge. "We can't fight them," she whispered. "Not with our hands. We need to find something. Tools. We were in a hardware store, for crying out loud. My mind snapped back to the power tool aisle I'd been working on earlier. If we could just make it back there, maybe we could find something useful. Hammers, crowbars, maybe even cordless drills with enough torque to keep something back. "I've got an idea," I said, keeping my voice low. "Follow me." We slipped through the aisles, ducking behind stacked mulch bags and overturned carts. The emergency lighting flickered as we moved, casting long shadows. Every so often we'd hear a clatter from the other side of the store. Metal striking concrete, shelves falling. It wasn't just those three, there were more. And they were inside. When we reached aisle 17, I snatched the heaviest hammer I could find. Carla went straight for the crowbars. She tossed me one too. It felt solid. Real. Cold metal that made me feel like I had some control again. "We need to find the others," she said. "Mike's probably still somewhere near the front, and there's the rest of the staff." I nodded, but my gut was telling me otherwise. Those screams I'd heard, there weren't many voices left. We found Mike near the self-checkout, slumped against a display of flashlights. His arm was bleeding badly, and his eyes had a faraway look. "Hey," Carla said, kneeling beside him. "You with us?" His head bobbed. "Bit me," he mumbled. "Didn't see her coming. Looked like my neighbor, except her eyes." Carla looked at me, then down at the wound. "We should move," I said. "Now." She agreed. We helped Mike to his feet, supporting his weight between us. I didn't want to think about what that bite meant. Not yet. The store wasn't silent anymore. It was alive with the shuffle of feet and the clink of tools falling to the floor. The sound of breathing, heavy, raspy breathing, was echoing down the aisles. We took a back route through the lumber section, hoping to circle toward the employee break room. If anyone else had survived, that's where they'd go. It had a reinforced door and no windows. We passed signs of a struggle, knocked over pallets, broken safety goggles, and one of those orange aprons lying crumpled on the ground, stained with dark blotches. Mike started muttering again. "They don't stop." I hit one with a pipe. It just kept coming. "Focus, Mike," Carla said. We made it to the break room door, but it was shut. I knocked softly. Nothing. I knocked again, harder this time. The small slit window on the door opened, and I saw a familiar face. Luis, one of the store's electricians. His eyes went wide. "Josh? Carla, you're alive." "Let us in," Carla whispered. He unlocked the door and pulled us inside. We slipped in just as another set of footsteps echoed behind us. Luis shut the door and locked it. Inside were 4 others. Luis, Sarah from customer service, Darnell from appliances, and Rachel, the assistant manager. Everyone looked rattled. Rachel had a bandage wrapped around her hand. Darnell clutched a pipe wrench like his life depended on it. "What's going on?" I asked. Rachel looked me dead in the eye. "I don't know. We got reports on the radio about strange attacks in the city, then nothing. All communication died at once, and those things started showing up." "How many are inside?" Carla asked. Luis responded. "At least 10, maybe more. Some came in through the loading dock. Others broke in through the windows." "We can't stay in here," Rachel added. "This place isn't built to last." I glanced around. The break room was barely big enough for the 8 of us. We had snacks, some bottled water, and a vending machine, but no way to hold out for long. "We need a plan," I said. "First," Carla cut in, "we need to deal with Mike." Everyone turned. Mike had gone quiet. Too quiet. His breathing had slowed and his skin looked pale. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused, and then He lunged. Mike launched forward, knocking over a chair as he reached for Luis. His eyes, what was left of them, had gone cloudy. His lips were pulled back, teeth clenched. That wasn't the same guy who used to complain about pallet weight limits or ask me if I clocked in properly. This thing in front of us wasn't Mike anymore. Luis stumbled back, tripping over a mop bucket. I didn't have time to think. I raised the crowbar Carla gave me and swung. The metal connected with a sickening crack. Mike dropped instantly, slumping against the vending machine with a dull thud. Everyone stood frozen, staring at the still form on the ground. Rachel finally broke the silence. How long was he bitten? Maybe 20 minutes, Carla whispered. Sarah backed into the corner, her hands shaking. So, that's it? That fast? No fever? No coughing? Just gone? Darnell's voice was flat, hollow. I stared at Mike, still clutching the crowbar, my hands trembling. We can't stay here. Rachel nodded slowly. I agree. Break room's not safe. They're going to find us. It's just a matter of time. Carla stepped up beside me. We moved fast and quiet, through the tool section. Then we hit the warehouse. That dock door might still be workable. There's a service truck in the back, Darnell added. Keys might still be in the locker. That gave us something, a goal. Rachel opened a drawer and passed out a few more makeshift weapons, a fire extinguisher, a wrench, and a heavy flashlight. I kept my crowbar. We opened the door slowly. The hallway beyond was empty, but the lights were flickering harder now. The buzzing from the bulbs above us made it feel like the whole place was on edge. We moved as a group, heads swiveling constantly. Past the HR office, past the training room. I glanced down the aisles and saw things I didn't want to see. Orange aprons lying motionless on the floor. A boot. A smear on the linoleum. When we reached the power tools section again, I paused. One of the displays was knocked over, and a battery-powered nail gun was lying beside it. I picked it up, fully charged. Carla noticed. Good thinking. We kept going. Near the warehouse doors, we found them. 5 of them. Standing in the aisle, blocking the path like a wall of shadows. One had a store apron still tied around its neck, though it was torn and covered in dried streaks. Another had a shattered arm, bone pushing out from the skin like it didn't matter. Luis cursed under his breath. No way we're getting past that. I looked around. We couldn't go back, and hiding again wasn't an option. Then Rachel pointed upward. Overhead beams, stockroom shelves. If we climb the ladder, we can cross above them. Carla hesitated, then nodded. All right. Quiet, careful. We moved toward the industrial shelf units and started climbing. The metal groaned under our weight, but the creatures below didn't look up. They didn't seem to care. I helped Sarah up, then Luis. Darnell followed, hoisting himself awkwardly with the wrench still looped in his belt. From up there, we could see more of the store, more than we wanted. At least 20 of them. Moving slowly, aimlessly, dragging their limbs across the tile, bumping into shelves. Some were chewing on things. I tried not to focus on what those things were. We crossed the beam slowly, using an old pallet rack as a bridge. Halfway across, I slipped. My foot scraped metal, and I dropped to my knee. The sound echoed. Every head below turned up at once. The silence broke. They screeched. That's the only word I have for it. A sharp, broken, grating sound that sent shivers all the way down to my spine. Then they moved. All of them. Fast. Go! Rachel shouted. We jumped down onto the far side, crashing into a pile of cardboard boxes. I rolled, came up with the crowbar still in hand. The service hallway was just ahead. We made a break for it. Behind us, they surged, tripping over each other, climbing shelves, scraping and scrambling with unnatural movements. They didn't care about falling or pain. The hallway door was jammed. Darnell threw his shoulder into it, once, twice. On the third hit, it flew open. We piled inside. Rachel slammed the bar lock into place behind us. It held. For now. The service hallway reeked of burnt rubber and cleaning chemicals. The air was hot and still, like the store's ventilation had finally given up. Fluorescent lights buzzed above us, but at least they stayed on. For now. We caught our breath near a rolling cart full of unpacked inventory. Rachel leaned against the wall, her face pale. Her wrapped hand was shaking. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but didn't look at me. "I'm fine." She wasn't, but none of us were. The hallway curved left toward the loading dock. A heavy steel door stood at the end, beyond a stack of pallets and mop buckets. If we could get that door open, we could get out, maybe find help, a vehicle, anything. We moved fast, trying to keep the panic buried. As we neared the door, we heard something strange. Pounding. Not from behind us, but ahead. Darnell froze. "You hear that?" "Someone's in the dock," Sarah whispered. It was a rhythmic pounding, slow, measured, like someone was knocking with purpose. Rachel moved first, crowbar raised, and pulled the viewing slot open on the steel door. We all held our breath. She let it shut again. "It's a person, at least, I think so." Carla stepped forward and lifted the bolt. "Wait," Louise began. Too late. Carla yanked the door open, and a man fell through it, collapsing on the floor. He was covered in sweat and grime, breathing hard. A utility vest hung from his shoulders, and a walkie-talkie dangled from his hip. There was blood on his jeans, but not his. Close it, he gasped. We dragged him inside and slammed the door shut again, bolting it. He curled up on the floor, coughing, shaking. Rachel knelt beside him. "Who are you?" "Name's Kev," he said between gasps. "Delivery driver. I was trying to get out, saw the store, figured it might still be secure." He looked at us. His eyes were wide, haunted. "I saw them take down a whole fire crew." "How long were you out there?" I asked. "Too long. They're everywhere. Gas stations, roads, neighborhoods. Doesn't matter where you run. They're just there." He sat up slowly. "Only reason I got away is 'cause one of them walked into traffic and caused a pileup, blocked the main road. That got our attention." "You saying the road's blocked?" Rachel asked. He nodded. "Big rig and 3 cars. Might be climbable, though. I left my truck nearby. It's still running." Darnell let out a quiet laugh. "So, we got wheels." "Great. Now we just need a clear path to get there without getting torn up." Kev looked around. "You got tools?" I raised my crowbar. "Plenty." "Then we've got a shot." But then the banging started. Not behind us, above us. Everyone looked up. The ventilation duct vibrated slightly, followed by a dull thump and a dragging sound. Carla backed away. "You've got to be kidding." One of them had gotten into the ducts. "Move," Rachel said sharply. "We're heading to the back lot, now." We didn't argue. The dock's rear exit had a key-coded deadbolt. Rachel typed it in with shaky fingers. The green light blinked. But before she could pull it open, something crashed through the ceiling panel. It dropped onto Luis. He screamed, trying to throw it off, but it was already on him, clawing at his face, gnashing its teeth. We rushed to help, but the space was too tight. Luis's scream became a gurgle. Kev grabbed a crowbar and swung it hard, knocking the thing off him. It hit the ground hissing, limbs flailing, twitching like a puppet with cut strings. but it wasn't down. It started getting up again. So I brought my boot down on its skull again and again until it finally stopped moving. We turned to Luis. He wasn't breathing. I stared at his hand. It was covered in bite marks. Rachel clenched her jaw and stepped forward. She shut his eyes gently, then picked up his wrench. "We're not leaving through the main store," she said coldly. "We go now, out this door, into the yard. Anyone who falls behind, you keep going." No one spoke. The door creaked open. Cool night air swept in, thick with smoke and something far worse. We stepped out and saw just how bad it had gotten. The outdoor air hit me like a wave of ash. It smelled like burning tires and something sharper beneath it, like metal and rot. The sky had darkened into a smoky gray. Fires flickered on the horizon. Sirens howled far away, then stopped suddenly like they'd been swallowed. We stepped into the loading yard behind Home Depot. The place was chaos. Kev pointed toward a side fence. "My truck's just beyond that lot. We cut through, head down the slope, and it's right there." The lot was surrounded by stacked pallets, dumpsters, and old delivery containers. It would have been quiet except for the scraping noise coming from inside one of the dumpsters. We all paused. A soft thud followed, then a high-pitched scratching, like something trying to climb. Rachel whispered, "Don't stop. Just keep moving." We moved. But then one of the containers rattled violently. Darnell froze. "They're in there." Kev raised his voice. "We don't have time to wonder what's inside every shadow. Move now, or stay forever." That snapped us back into motion. We followed him through the maze of stacked supplies. I kept my crowbar raised, my eyes darting between corners. Rachel stayed behind me, Carla to the left. Sarah was silent, clutching a pry bar like it was a lifeline. We made it to the fence. Kev pulled out a set of bolt cutters from a nearby crate. "Lucky find," he muttered, and went to work. The clink of metal echoed too loudly in the open space. With each snip, I swore I could hear movement nearby grow louder. The final bolt snapped. "Go!" Kev shouted. We pushed through the broken fence and stumbled down the slope into the next lot. A side road behind a closed strip mall. There it was. A delivery truck, still running, lights on. Driver's side door wide open. "That's our ride," Kev said. We sprinted toward it. Then came the scream. High, guttural, not human. They were here. A group of them, at least 6, rushed out from behind the gas station next door, stumbling, sprinting, half crawling, their bodies bent at angles that didn't seem natural. One of them had a fire axe stuck in its back and didn't even seem to notice. "Don't stop!" Rachel yelled. We reached the truck just as they closed in. Kev jumped into the driver's seat. I hauled Sarah up, then Carla. Rachel shoved me forward, then turned to face the oncoming group, swinging her crowbar in wide, deliberate arcs. "Rachel!" I shouted. "I'm right behind you." One of them lunged for her, and she ducked, smashing its legs out from under it. Another grabbed her sleeve, and she spun, slamming her crowbar into its jaw. She was buying time. Kev slammed the truck door and shouted, "We gotta go!" "She's not in yet." Rachel was halfway to the door when one grabbed her from behind. I moved without thinking. I leapt out, pulled her free, and dragged her to the passenger side. We dove in just as the crowd swarmed the truck. Kev didn't wait, he floored it. The truck roared forward. The creatures hit the sides, clawing at the doors, pounding the windows. One climbed onto the hood. Kev swerved, scraping it off against a concrete divider. We burst onto the main road. No traffic, just empty lanes and abandoned cars scattered like someone dumped a toy box across the highway. "Where are we going?" Carla asked, breathless. Kev kept his eyes on the road. West, out of the city. If we're lucky, the suburbs might still be quiet. "Nothing's quiet anymore," Rachel said softly, clutching her crowbar with a bloodied hand. Sarah leaned forward. "Did anyone else hear the emergency alert on the radio?" "I did," I said. "Said to stay inside, lock doors, wait for help." "No one's coming," Kev said flatly. Darnell looked out the back window. "We're the help now." We drove in silence for a while, the city lights behind us fading into smoky red haze. But the silence didn't last. We came to an overpass, and the road ahead was blocked. Cars jammed in every direction, headlights still glowing, doors hanging open, like everyone tried to leave at once, and no one made it. Kev slowed the truck to a crawl. "Looks like a parking lot," he muttered. Rachel leaned forward. "We'll have to go on foot." "No," Kev said. "We're not ditching the truck. We push through." He revved the engine. And then, through the smoke ahead, we saw them. Dozens. Crawling over cars. Some walking, some sprinting. All of them heading straight for us. They were coming from every direction. Up the ramps, over the dividers, between the cars. Dozens of them, maybe more. Kev slammed the truck in reverse, but the tires skidded. "No good," he growled. "We're boxed in." Rachel pointed to a narrow gap between two SUVs. "There, aim for the side ramp." Kev didn't hesitate. He swerved, scraping mirrors off both sides as we barreled through the tight opening. Sparks flew. One of the creatures tried to dive through the passenger window. Rachel shoved the crowbar through its face before it could crawl inside. The truck hit the ramp hard. We bounced, slammed our heads against the ceiling, but stayed upright. "They're still following!" Sarah screamed from the back. "Hold on," Kev shouted. "We're not stopping." We sped down the side road under the overpass. The street ahead opened up into a service road, lined with old businesses, an auto body shop, a liquor store, a pet groomer with broken windows. "Anywhere we can hide?" Carla asked. "There," I pointed. "That garage looks shut. Roll up doors down. Might be safe." Kev yanked the wheel, and we turned sharply into the garage's narrow lot. The truck screeched to a stop. Rachel and I jumped out first, racing to the roll-up door. It had a keypad. No obvious lock, no handles. "Kev, tools!" He tossed us a tire iron and a flathead screwdriver. We went to work prying at the bottom edge. Behind us, the horde hit the corner. Some slipped, others sprinted like their bones didn't matter. The door creaked, then groaned as Rachel wedged the iron deeper. The metal screeched and snapped open just enough for someone to crawl under. "I'll go first." Carla ducked inside, followed by Sarah and Darnell. Kev handed me the truck keys and gave one last look over his shoulder. They were 20 feet away. Rachel shoved him toward the gap. "Go!" He scrambled inside. I turned to her. "Come on." But she wasn't moving. "I'll hold them back." "No, don't even say it." More of them were coming around both sides now. Rachel looked at me, then at the gap under the door. She nodded. "Fine, but you're going in first." I didn't argue. I dropped flat and slid under. Once through, I reached back out. "Now!" Rachel threw herself down just as the nearest creature lunged. Its fingers grazed her boot, but she slipped through. We yanked the crowbar inside and let the door slam shut behind us. Silence. For a second, then pounding. Dozens of fists, claws, and limbs slamming into the other side of the steel door. We stepped away slowly, staring at the heavy metal. It held. Kev flicked on a hanging light bulb. The inside of the garage was tight, stacked with tires, oil drums, and a hydraulic lift. Dust coated everything. No bodies. No blood. It felt like a miracle. "We made it," Carla whispered. "No," Rachel said. "We got a break, that's all." We moved to the back room. A small office with a tiny fridge, a battered desk, and a couch that smelled like oil and old coffee. Kev sat down hard. "We can't outrun them forever." Carla looked at me. "So, what now?" I glanced around the room. "We rest, we lock everything, we regroup." Rachel paced, her jaw tight. "And when morning comes, what's the plan?" No one answered. I turned to the window. The glass was smeared with soot, but through it I saw the edge of the city. Flickering fires, blinking red lights, drifting smoke. "We don't run anymore," I said. "We start finding people, supplies, places we can fortify. We don't just survive." I looked back at them. "We build something better." Rachel looked at me like I'd gone nuts. Then, slowly, she nodded. Kev chuckled. "You got all that from a Home Depot trainee orientation?" I gave a tired smile. "Not exactly." We all sat there for a moment, listening to the pounding at the garage door slow. Eventually, the noise faded. Maybe they wandered off. Maybe they were waiting. Didn't matter. Because we were still alive. And we weren't done yet. I don't know if it was adrenaline or sheer exhaustion, but we all passed out that night, curled up in the garage office like a bunch of kids camping out in a bunker. No nightmares, no dreams. When I woke up, the sun had risen behind a thick layer of smoke. It painted everything in dull orange. The pounding on the garage door had stopped. So had the distant screams. It was quiet. Too quiet. I sat up slowly, feeling every bruise and scrape from the last 12 hours. Rachel was still out, leaning against a stack of tires. Carla and Sarah were curled up on the floor, wrapped in old shop rags. Kev stood near the window, peeking through a crack in the boarded frame. "They're gone," he said softly. I walked up beside him. "You sure?" "As sure as I can be. They were either drawn off by something louder or waiting in the shadows." "Both," Rachel muttered as she sat up, rubbing her neck. "They're smart in a way that's wrong." Darnell let out a slow breath. "It's like they're not just chasing noise anymore. They're hunting." We shared a look, the weight of what that meant settling like a brick. "We can't stay here," Carla said. Kev nodded. "Agreed. This garage won't hold if they decide to test it again." Sarah opened the fridge and found a half case of bottled water and a bag of jerky. "Still good," she said. "Not much, though." We ate quietly, watching the light creep across the cracked concrete floor. Then we packed tools, canned fluids, wrenches, a couple flares, anything that looked useful. Rachel tapped her crowbar against the floor. "So, where to?" I pulled out the city map from Kev's glove compartment and unfolded it across the hood of the truck. "There's an old Home Depot distribution center about 10 miles west of here. It's out near the industrial parks. Big fences, massive storage, maybe even backup generators." Kev raised an eyebrow. "You really like that place, huh?" I gave a tired grin. "Let's just say I know where everything is in a Home Depot, even the places customers never see." Rachel smirked. "Then lead the way, rookie." We made a plan: stay low, stay fast, stay together. The truck had taken a beating, but it still ran. As long as we didn't hit anything too rough, we could make it halfway before needing to find fuel or another ride. We rolled up the garage door just enough to peek outside. Empty. Not a single one in sight. We climbed in, every nerve on edge. Kev drove, keeping to the alleys and side roads. Rachel rode shotgun, crowbar across her lap like a sword. I kept checking the rearview mirror, not because anything was behind us, but because I kept expecting it. About 20 minutes in, we passed through a small neighborhood. Trash littered the streets. Cars crashed into light poles. One had its driver's door wide open, keys still in the ignition, music still playing. It was eerie, like the world had been paused in the middle of screaming. We turned a corner, and that's when we saw the bus. It had crashed into a power pole and tipped halfway onto its side. Smoke still rose from the engine. What stopped us cold were the figures outside it. Not infected, people. Real, living people. They were huddled behind overturned trash bins and broken fences. 4 adults, 2 kids. One of the adults waved frantically when they saw our truck. "They need help," Carla said. Kev hesitated. "And they might bring trouble." Rachel didn't move. "We can't drive past." I opened the door and stepped out, crowbar raised. "I'll go. Keep the engine running." I moved toward them slowly, keeping my hands open. One of them, a woman in a denim jacket, stood to greet me. "They're still close," she whispered. "We ran from the school a few blocks back. There were more of us, but not anymore." I nodded. "Come on, we've got a truck. Just move fast." We helped the others up. One of the kids couldn't have been older than 5. He clung to a teddy bear like it was armor. The second we got halfway back to the truck, a sound broke through the silence. A low groan, then a shriek. They were coming. Rachel shouted, "Move!" The woman grabbed her daughter. I scooped up the little boy and we ran, full sprint, toward the truck. Kev threw the back doors open. Carla reached out and pulled the girl inside. Sarah helped the woman in. Rachel and I jumped in last. The first infected came around the corner as Kev floored it. Too late. We were gone. Inside the truck, the woman wept quietly, holding her daughter. The boy sat in my lap, silent and wide-eyed. "They were all over the school," she whispered. "Teachers, kids, it all happened so fast. I didn't ask for details. Didn't need to." Carla handed her a bottle of water. "We're heading to a supply center. It's out near the edge of town." The woman looked at us, hopeful but wary. "You sure it's safe?" "No," I said, "but it's better than here." Rachel glanced at me. "Still want to be a trainee after all this?" I shook my head. "No, I think I just got promoted." The last few miles felt like a dream. Not the good kind. The kind where the world is crumbling around you and no matter how fast you run, you can't get away. Smoke drifted through the empty streets. Power lines sparked from tilted poles. Every shadow looked like it was breathing. But somehow we made it. The Home Depot distribution center stood behind a long chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Massive loading docks lined to the back, and several shipping containers were stacked like giant bricks along the sides. One of the bay doors was open just wide enough to drive through. Kev pulled us in and killed the engine. The silence afterward was heavier than any sound. We all got out slowly. The air inside was cool, stale, but safe. For now. The interior was bigger than any store. Tall steel racks stretched up into darkness, filled with pallets of everything you could think of. Tools, lumber, hardware, emergency kits, most of it untouched. "No power," Rachel said, flipping a nearby switch. "Generators?" "Storage bay far back," I said, "but it might take time to figure out." "Let's seal up first," Carla added. We rolled the bay door shut and locked the inner latches. Then we barricaded the main office and did a quick sweep of the upper mezzanine. It felt like fortifying a castle. One built from metal, silence, and desperation. The survivors from the school, Andrea, her daughter Lily, the boy named Max, helped where they could. Max stuck close to me, still clutching his bear. "You used to work here?" he asked. "I was just training." He nodded, like that meant something important. The generator room was tucked behind a locked cage. We broke it open, flipped switches, and waited. Nothing. Kev crouched by the wiring and scratched his head. Something's wrong. Fuel, maybe, or the starter's shot. Rachel stepped beside him. "We'll figure it out." By nightfall, the light outside faded into deep shadow. We set up lanterns and glow sticks we found in emergency kits. The air was thick with tension, but the walls held. No pounding, no screeching. Just the distant moan of a world that no longer made sense. We sat in a circle around a battery-powered lamp, each of us quiet for a long time. The kind of quiet that only comes when everyone knows what the others are thinking. "We've got food for now," Carla said. "Water too, but it won't last forever." "And we're not alone out there," Sarah added. "There'll be others. Lost, scared. We have to be ready." Rachel rubbed her eyes. "You think this place can hold if they come in force?" "I don't know," I admitted. "But it's the best shot we've got." And Kev leaned against a crate. "So, what now?" It was a fair question. The first 12 hours had come and gone. The world we knew was gone with it, but we were still breathing. Still standing. And we had a base. A place to start again. I looked at the tools on the shelf beside me. At the pallets stacked with supplies. At the survivors sleeping in corners of the warehouse, wrapped in thermal blankets like fragile memories. Then I stood up. "We rebuild," I said. Rachel raised an eyebrow. "With what?" I picked up a hammer from the shelf. "With what we've got." That night, we drew up a rough plan. Routes for scavenging, areas to fortify, ways to collect rainwater. We weren't soldiers, we weren't trained, but we had a warehouse full of possibilities and the will to survive. And that counts for something. Before I went to sleep, I walked up to the roof. The stars were faint behind the haze, but they were still there. Somewhere out there, the world was burning. But here, in this quiet island of steel and concrete, we were alive. And maybe, just maybe, that meant something. Maybe tomorrow we'd find others. Maybe we'd set up a signal. Maybe we'd fight back. But for now, we rest, we breathe, we wait for dawn. Because we survived the first 12 hours. And we're not stopping there. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support keeps these creepypastas coming. Until next time, stay alert, stay safe, and never ignore the feeling that something is watching.